Oh man, I like the sound of that. It's been a while since I cracked open a beer on my podcast. I was, if you all know, if you listen to my podcast, I was dealing with the COVID, the Rona for the last 2 weeks. So it's been a while, but finally get to crack open a beer. What do I got today? I got Jungling. What is this? Jungling. I've loved this beer and I'm super happy that it's finally in Texas. They came to Texas finally, like last year. But anyways, got a great episode for you today. I got Chris Slywka. I hope I said that right. On the podcast. If you don't know Chris Slywka, he is not the newest, but one of our newest segments on the Paddle and Fin Network. Every other Sunday, we have the Mindset. And I'll throw in the logo right here so you can see it if you're watching on YouTube. No, that's the wrong one. That's the one for my last guest, Shane Lamont. But anyways, man, we don't have his logo. I gotta go talk to Chris. We gotta get his logo up here. Maybe it's here and I can't find it. But anyways, he has a great episode called The Mindset. And we love it. He has a cool logo coming out too. I don't know why it's not here. But he talks a lot about, getting your mind right when you're fishing tournament and for fun. And he's got some great guests on his podcast. So I really encourage all of you to listen to his episode every other Sunday. Other than that, what do we got? It is Saturday for me, Saturday the 5th of February. Looking at the leaderboard for the Bass Nation Kayak Series in Lake Fork. Man, oh man, we had another snowstorm coming in. And not for nothing, not to toot my own horn, but I kind of called it. If you ever listened to my episode with Caleb Helbig, I think it was, I even called it. I said, this tournament, I bet you anything there's going to be a snowstorm by the time this tournament rolls in. And sure enough, I jinxed it. There is. Tough day today, man. Like, only the top 12 caught a limit out of 150 anglers. Shout out to Garrett Morgan, man. 102.5 inches. And to put it in perspective, last year's tournament was 98 inches, I think. Year before that, I don't remember for Bass Nations or if it was Hobie BOS. I know Cody Milton, I think, got 100 inches. But on the conditions that we're having, there was ice on the lake this morning. For Garrett Morgan in Texas to cut 102.5 inches, that's amazing. Shout out to Rolando Nandin, also 99.5 inches on day one of day two. Chris Longshore, Chris Hartman, Terry Elkins, Guillermo Gonzalez, to the surprise of no one. He's in contention too, 94.75. James Bush, Larry Anderson, Matthew Ramey, and Matthew Scott, another Texas Hammer. They round out the top 10. Super happy to see a bunch of my Texas peeps out there. Last year on Bass Nation Kayak Season Fork, I think Guillermo Gonzalez was the only Texan in the top 10. So great job by everyone out there. I mean, it is tough condition. I am glad I'm not taking part of that. Big fan of everybody that's taking part of this. You guys out there, if you're listening and you fish Lake Fork, congratulations to whoever won. And big props to you for fishing on those conditions. At least in Texas, we're not used to this. So anyways, got a great show for you today. Shout out to my sponsor, Douglas Rock. Go check out douglasoutdoors.com for their full lineup. LRS, X-Matrix, and award-winning fly fishing rods. Quick commercial for waypoints, and we bring Chris up. So stick around. You're going to enjoy it. What's going on? Pretty boy Chris, you doing all right?
I'm doing great, man. Just surviving this winter. It's been brutal.
Where are you right now, Chris?
By the way, Chicago, Illinois.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about my weather. You guys you're like, that's Tuesday for us, Armando. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Was it bad for you this Snowmageddon this?
It was, but when you've been here your whole life, you're kind of used to it. I just get up an hour earlier, get the snow out the way before you have to go do anything. It's typical for us.
Yeah, I saw a meme somewhere where it's like, Texas wind tornadoes. Oh, we got this. And then Texas in with 1 inch of snow, and it's like a picture of the what is it? The Holy Grail. What was
Yeah.
that British comedy movie? It was funny, but yeah, it's pretty much what it is, man. We can handle pretty much everything in Texas except a 1/4 inch of snow.
Yeah, I mean, well, you get it on the roads, it could be dangerous, but I mean, out here, we're all used to it by now.
Yeah, no, not here.
Dude.
Shout out, like I said, shout out to everybody in Fork. When it snowed here, I'm like, man, I would go in the water, but people really, and I'm not used to. Well, I'm kind of used to driving in snow because I used to go to Colorado a lot for snowboarding, and I drove there. But people here in Texas not used to driving in snow and sleet, man. It's dangerous, especially if you're on a trailer on a kayak. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's no way I'm getting. I'm not concerned about the water being cold. I'm concerned about the drivers here. So.
Well, and then you're not used to it either.
Yeah, they're not used to it.
Especially, even being on the kayak, you're not used to that cold of water. I don't know how cold the water gets for you guys, but we're used to seeing, 40-degree temps.
Yeah, we're here. February usually goes down to 40 degrees. I don't know why. I guess if you're not from Texas and you figure where you're gonna hold the national tournament, you think, oh, Texas. It's like Florida. The winter's not that bad, but February is traditionally the worst month in Texas as far as winter goes, and I hate it every time they schedule a national tournament on February because it's 50-50 shot. You're gonna have like really bad cold weather. But anyways, big shout out. Like I said, big shout out to the guys at Bass Nation.
Yeah.
This weekend, man, that's crazy. Only
And then-
12. Go ahead.
You have Hobie next weekend too, don't you?
I got Toledo Bend, and the weather's looking phenomenal. 60s and 70s and 6-mile-per-hour winds. Now, that could change from here on. That's still a week away. Next week, it could be like it's Texas. It could be thunderstorms. It could be below freezing. You never know. So anything could happen in a week.
This seems to be the tradition. When they were out in Kissimmee, they got winter weather out there too.
Yeah, I saw that. That was crazy.
It's just following the tournament trails right now.
Yeah, you think they're like, okay, let's avoid the winter storms by going down south for winter. How did that work out for KBF? The Hobie's the only one that might have gotten locked out.
Yeah.
Out of that one. Crazy. By the way, it's crazy. Hobie BOS. I was surprised at how fast Toledo Bend got sold out. Then the next day they opened up Santee Cooper, I think it is. What's the second?
Yeah. Yep.
Sold out in like 48 hours.
Hey, don't they
Now,
have
like-
like 3 of them sold out now?
Yes, and then the other one, they just opened the other one in Lake Eufaula. That's not even, April 24th, and it's already sold out.
Yeah, I think it's now people are freaking out.
It is crazy, but I mean, it's got to be, hey, I don't not mean to pick on anybody, but when you put a tournament angler, an accomplished tournament angler, you put him as a director to run a tournament, this is the results that you get.
Yeah.
Can't say that enough. Not throwing shit at anybody. But anyways, Chris, tell us a little bit about your podcast, man, and how you got into fishing, kayak fishing.
Well, I'll start with the kayak fishing. It was a way to get off the bank for me. I spent from 20. Well, I've been fishing pretty much my whole life, but at 20, I kind of decided this is what I want to do as a career, and I started chasing that down. But a lot of it was bank fishing from morning to dark, and then I needed a way to get off the water. There's only so much bank fishing you could do and so much you could learn bank fishing. So it was a way to get off the water. And so I ended up buying an Ascend, which kind of was a mistake.
Same here. Same here. No shame in that.
Yeah. I want to say a couple years ago, and immediately when I bought it, before I could even figure out kayak fishing, I got into my first tournament. Blanked on the tournament because, I'm
Same
like,
here.
because you get into that point of when you're fishing out of the kayak, you go probably to your favorite lake that you always know where the fish are,
Yeah.
and you think you're a hot shot. And then you go into a tournament not knowing how much people actually work at this, and ended up blanking on that tournament. I wasn't as good as I thought it was. But I feel like a lot of people do that, man.
That's preaching to the choir, buddy. Same thing.
Yeah.
I started with an Ascent 12T. I didn't get my first bass until my fourth tournament, and it jumped off the board, and I lost it. So officially, I didn't get a bass into my fifth tournament.
Yeah.
And again, I started with an Ascent 12T. It took a year before I decided I'm gonna get rid of this.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't take me that long to get rid of that one.
It's funny, Brian Schiller, our great CEO and leader, he got one, and I think he tried it once and he sold it. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're like what, 6'5" or something like that,
Yeah,
200
that
something.
I tried standing up in that thing, and it was like I never felt comfortable in it.
I wasn't for me standing on the 12T, and I'm just for reference, I'm 5'11", 200 pounds, and I could stand up. Well, the seat was too low. Once I raised the seat, like everybody that owns a 12T, a Ascent 12T will tell you, they modified it. Once I modified it to stand up, I wasn't. It was pretty stable. I was surprised how stable it is. It was.
Yeah, I think it was for me. It's because it was my very first kayak, and I was really new into kayak
Yeah.
fishing. That led to the not being stable, and I just felt like I just had to learn everything about it before. I
I
mean,
hate
if
it.
I go back to it now, it's probably not as bad as I thought it was when I first bought it.
Let me tell you something. It's a great way to do exercise for your shoulders and your
Yeah.
back, because that thing is a limo, man. Trying to
Yo,
row on that, is like
yeah,
paddle on that. Is like, geez, it's a great workout. I'll
yeah.
tell you that much. And what about your podcast? Tell us about it. How do you came up with that idea, to like the
the
mindset and all that?
the mindset thing has always been with me, and the idea of the podcast was kind of, I want to say I've been wanting to do it for 2 years, and then this past year I felt like I gained enough traction on social media and everything in order to bring it to the table, to the light. To get it on Paddle and Fin was kind of a surprise to me. I was just asking Brian how I could start a podcast, and he's like, "Well, we have an opening for you if you want it." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll take it for sure." And like, so it was always something I liked, and it's something I always driven to because coming up, I didn't really have a lot of money to buy all these fancy baits and everything to try out. So I kept to the mindset of if I do the work, if I learn how to fish, then I don't need all this fancy stuff, pretty much.
We still buy it though.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm saying like back then, 20-year-old
Yeah.
with little money, not now of course, yeah, now of course I buy it. But back then, I was more focused on how to fish versus what's the best lure to use.
Yeah, it's funny because you start getting down that rabbit hole. Come tournament time, it's gonna be a jackhammer or a Senko. You
Yeah,
probably not gonna throw anything other than that.
yeah, I
and
know.
and then like all these crankbaits for what?
Out here, it's like a lot of the lakes I fish. It's like for me, it's a drop shot or an eco rig or a frog if I could find grass. Like
What lakes do you fish out of? Like
it's
out
a
of
lot
Chicago,
of.
Illinois?
Well, Chicago, I fish a lake called Bussy Woods, which is like a little lake. Doesn't allow motors on it, only electric motors.
Oh, nice.
So, and it's like really grassy area. So I do a lot of frogging there. I learn a lot of my grass techniques from there. But for the tournament wise, we do a lot of the Great Lakes areas. Like I know this year we're doing Lake Geneva, and one that I'm kind of iffy on is Sturgeon Bay, because that's connected to Lake Michigan, and in a kayak with 4 foot waves is
Yeah, no,
not
Lake Michigan.
ideal.
So have you ever kayak fished in like Lake Michigan, one of those Great Lakes?
No, I know JP has another host of ours,
Yeah.
but I haven't even tried it out yet.
Not, I wouldn't try it in the Ascent 12T.
Well, I'll be at the beginning of this year before my year actually kicks off. I'll be in a New Canoe Pursuit.
Nice. So what are you fishing right now? Are you still in
I
the
came
Central
out
T?
of no, I got rid of the Ascent 12T a while ago. This past year I was in a bona fide RS 117, and I did the whole season with that, and I kind of like, all right, I'm taking this seriously. Everything's moving forward. I need something tournament ready.
What's your setup right now for tournaments?
Uh, I I haven't got the boat yet, but it will be that Pursuit, and then with an NK 180S motor on it.
Nice. How's over there in where you live? Is there any tournaments out there? Like over here, there's a mix. You know, we have the ones that allow, other than the nationals, like the local clubs. Most local clubs allow motors, but
Yeah,
I know some other areas where they're more traditional, like Alabama, Tennessee. There's some local tournaments that are just like non-motorized and other motorized. How is it over there where you live? Is it all? Are they all allow motors, or is there a mix?
they all allow motors, but not everybody runs one. A lot of them either have a motor or a pedal drive. Those people competing last year on the paddle and fin series. That's the one I did last year. Half of them didn't have a motor or a pedal drive, and they were still catching fish.
Yeah, no, definitely. You don't need a motor for it. Last year on the Lake Fork, I think the top three didn't have a motor. I know the guy that came up first, I forgot his name. Nate Gloria. Nate Gloria didn't have. He was fishing the same, kind of like the same area I was fishing. He had an Outback, no motor on it, if I remember correctly. So I think it's kind of like overrated. I don't think anybody in Lake Fork. Well, you never know. I guess if they were out fishing like Rolando Nandin, I know he does that live scope thing and he's pretty good at it. I fished some tournaments where he's won, and he might be doing some offshore fishing, especially with the cold weather. But yeah, man, it's interesting. Now, is there a season for your tournaments? Do they generally stop at a certain month? I'm assuming for kayak fishing.
For us, it seems like the first tournament is the end of April, and then it goes into September. And there's normally
September.
like one tournament every single month.
Oh, cool. What
But
what last year you were fishing paddle and fin. This year, what tournaments are you fishing?
I'll be probably fishing for local Great Lakes kayak fishing. Then I want to try to get in some All American tournaments.
Oh, the All
But
American Series. Yeah.
that's dependent on time off and all that stuff.
Yeah, I like the All American Series. I think they have a tournament here in Palestine, in conjunction with Northeast Texas Kayak Fishing, which is run by Duke Tran and the guys at Mariner Sales. I think I'm still thinking whether I want to do the kind of like two ducks with one stone, or two birds with one stones, I should say, fishing both. Now, for me, fishing the All American, I won't be able to fish it like to compete for the Angler of the Year. I really looked at it hard to see if I can compete for the Angler of the Year in All American Series. I've heard a lot of great series. I heard a lot of great feedback about it, but it's mostly all up in Arkansas and Missouri area. It's too far away for me to
Yeah,
fish more than one.
it's supposed to be more of a northern
Yeah.
series because bass and Hobie kind of spread out all over the place, and bass really isn't coming too close to my neck of the woods this year. 'Cause the original plan was to fish bass, but then I seen like most of these places are 10 to 15 hours away from me.
Yeah, same thing for me. The only one they had the one in Lake Fork, but then again, the schedule putting it right before the Hobie BOS, like that's $250 in a week. I mean, $250 per term. That's $500 in a week. That's a
Hmm.
little bit too rich for my blood. Plus my local tournaments, which I'm fishing for an Angler of the Year. I'm like, yeah, that's easily $600, and I'm going to be spending in just 2 weekends. That's not fun.
Yeah,
Um,
for me, I want to try to qualify for that bass championship through the
yeah.
local club.
Do you have a Bass Nation kayak series in
Well, so
Illinois?
the club I'm going through is technically a Wisconsin club, but they kind of like the northern anglers kind of tend to go that way. Just the fishing's a lot better. So that I have to pay them and pay a couple extra fees to fish their Bass Nation. But that's definitely what I'm looking forward to.
Have you fished any national trails?
No, not. I was trying last year, and then I ended up losing my job about August 1st. So that kind of killed the Bass series that was going on in September
Yeah, I
up in
bet.
Wisconsin.
You back at the workforce though? You good?
No, I've been learning some learning things with Joshua David, my last guest. He's been teaching me how to do the stock market stuff and everything.
Nice.
So I've been doing some of that stuff and then some like DoorDash and stuff to make extra cash for now.
Nice. Yeah,
But it's working out, man. You know?
yeah, no, it's good. I did last year. I did a lot of Uber Eats when they started giving leave of absence from work because of the pandemic. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not bad, man. It's good. You know, if you time it right and you can work around a good schedule, you can get some money out of doing food deliveries like DoorDash and Uber Eats and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's I mean, I really like it. I just don't really like having to use my car and then plus driving to all
Yeah,
these tournaments.
yeah,
It's
no, the car. But the good thing is, those are all like write-offs. Like
true.
I've noticed that filling out my tax return last year, when I did a lot of Uber Eats, not last year, but the year before last year. So the taxes for filling out the taxes last
Yeah.
year for what I did in Uber Eats 2 years ago, I should say. Man, you can. It's like you really don't have to pay almost nothing in taxes because everything between the mileage, the gas, the depreciation on your car, it's like, yeah, man, everything's right off. Like you don't have to really pay a lot of
Yeah.
taxes in it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. I know there's ways too for the fishing side once you start actually cashing checks like Russ and all them do on a normal basis. There's ways to write things off too from
Yeah.
there also. But
Lofty goals though.
that's yeah.
What now since you and I know you follow a lot of the national trails and all that, who's your favorite angler right now? Like who do you think is right now at the top of the game?
I I don't really have a favorite angler yet. To be honest, I kind of like seeing the weights that they're putting up, and like I like seeing that Bass and Hobie and all them are going to lakes that you've always heard of,
Yeah.
and now I have a chance to fish them, kind of. Like this year I'm going to lakes that I've always been told are the best smallmouth lakes in the world, and now I get to go fish them this year.
Which one is that?
Sturgeon Bay. It's gonna be dangerous, but there's 7 pound smallmouth in there,
Yeah.
so. So I mean, if you can get into a little area and there's fish there, it's gonna be great. It's like all the stuff you see and watch on, the Bass Elites and the MLF. Now you get to go out and fish them, which I think that's probably the coolest part.
Okay, so let me simplify the questions about who's your favorite angler. Who do you got on the fantasy team? And for those that don't know, here in Paddle and Fin, we do have a fantasy team, or a fantasy league, I should say, that you can enter. So go check out our Facebook page, follow us on Paddle and Fin, and you can get more details if you want to play the kayak fishing fantasy game. But you in the fantasy game, right? Which one do you got?
I I didn't sign up in time for Fork. I will be signed up in time for Toledo Bend, and I mean Guillermo's a hard one
Yeah,
to pass up, and then Christine's always up there too.
yeah.
Um, And then, I mean, the person I would follow before he was even on Paddle and Fin was Drew Gregory, just because
Yep.
his style matches with mine a lot. The minimalist of it, and I mean, besides he doesn't really use a motor, I do, but just the simplistics of four rods going out there and just fishing.
Yeah, Drew is kind of like the anti, and I say this with kind of like with respect and what's the word I'm looking for? Like a compliment, right? Is like the anti kayak angler. We always like carry like I carry 9 rods. We have this. We try to get this fancy kayaks. Like not uh, gloating or anything, but I have the PA 360, which is a lot of money. And I don't have a motor and I don't have the fancy equipment, but I know a lot of guys on top of having a PA 360 or a Old Town Sportsman, they have the live scopes or the Humminbird 360 and the Torpedoes and the spot locks and all that. And here's Drew Gregory bringing pretty much everybody with just a Crescent kayak, which is a great kayak, but it's bare to the bones as far as just like 4 rods going to, deep into a creek with really no, like, I can't speak totally on how he does his electronic, but really not depending much on electronics
He
at
says
all.
he says he doesn't. He says if it's his choice, he doesn't bring it.
Yeah.
I know I listened to when he was on talking about the Crescent kayaks, and he said if it's his choice, he'd rather not have electronics on his boat.
And traditionally, he doesn't pre-fish at all. Like, not at all. He doesn't pre-fish as much as these guys that are pre-fishing for 5 days.
Yeah, he said his tradition is hit a few spots, stay a couple minutes here, stay a couple minutes there, and just kind of figure it out. But that's kind of like me. Like I'd much rather sit on Google Earth and pick out a few spots here and there, and then go check those out versus running around the whole lake when I get there.
Yeah, and I think that's key. You touched on a good point. Like me, I'm preparing for Toledo Bend. Unfortunately, because of scheduling, I can't pre-fish more than 1 day. So I'm going to pre-fish 1 day. I'm relying heavily on Google Earth. And that's a great tool for anybody that's thinking, well, I don't get the chance to pre-fish. Yeah, one thing I will say about Bass Nation that they got right, and I'm hoping Hobie at some points adopt this, is, limit the pre-fishing time. Because a lot of times when you guys... And my point on this is, when you got people that can pre-fish, like, for 5 days, and we all know the names, not to take anything away from their greatness, when they're able to pre-fish... and I say this, and I just remember Gio didn't even pre-fish for for the KBF trail and still won. But anyways, when you get people that can pre-fish for 5 days, there's only a small group that can travel around and do that. The problem could be in the future, and I'm just anticipating, this is just my opinion. Everybody can have a different opinion. I respect everybody's opinion. But when you get into that small elite group where they're the ones who's catching in the big checks day in and day out, then what will that do for the growth of the tournament when everybody's like, well, I don't really have a shot at winning money if I can only pre-fish 1 day. That's one point of it. So I'm always I'm one of those that advocate for small shorter pre-fishing windows like Bass Nation is doing. Having said that, if you can't pre-fish, I rely heavily on Google Earth to do a lot of study. And if you know what you're looking for, and if you train your eye, that takes time. There's one thing about training for time on the water, but it also to train your eye on how to use technology like Google Earth. That's another level of training. That's another level of knowledge. Because the first time I started using Google Earth, you're just looking at it like, what am I looking for? But the more time you get on the water, the more, and you combine that with what you can see on Google Earth, there comes a point in time where things start to click, and as soon as you open Google Earth and you look at a lake, you know exactly what you're looking for. And it's depending on the season, right? Depending if it's pre-spawn.
Yeah, totally.
So that's one thing that I encourage everybody. You have to train your eye, and again, it takes time. It doesn't come overnight. And I'm not saying I've mastered that, but I found success in tournaments where I haven't even pre-fished at all, but I spend hours of my free time, and not just saying like 2 hours in 1 day, but I spent like 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here from either work, my break from work, or my lunch break, or after I got home from work. Just before I go to sleep, I just look at it. When you start and you know what you're looking for, there's a lot of information that's going to really help you when you go into the next tournament if you haven't been able to pre-fish. So don't get discouraged. For anybody that's out there listening, I know you know this, but for those listeners, don't get discouraged if you can't pre-fish it or if you only have 1 day. Just take your time, learn, go to YouTube, learn what to look for. There's a lot of YouTube channels like I forgot his name. What is this guy's name? The one fish, not, fish the moment. Yeah, fish in the moment, right?
It
He
might be. I know I found a guy who does he's not like a big name, but he's big into doing electronic videos
yeah
and Google Earth videos.
yeah
He did a whole like, and I just searched how to um how to look for stuff on Google Earth and how
yeah
to switch it to. I had a Garmin
yeah.
unit at the time. How to switch it to your Garmin unit, and he did like a 1 hour thing just sitting at his computer, showing people exactly what he was looking for, exactly how he found things on Google Earth,
Oh,
and
simplistic fishing. This is from Texas.
uh, I would have to look it up
If you
because it was
go,
over a year ago
go
when
ahead and
I
finish your
seen
thought,
this
I'll talk
video.
about that after you're
Yeah.
done.
One thing I will say is because a lot of people are gonna see this and then download it on their phone. You have to have the desktop one to get the
Yeah.
full Google Earth experience and be able to look at different times, and when the water's lower, you're able to find stumps and things like that
Yeah,
versus the app.
one thing to help anybody that's out there learning how to use Google Earth and what to look for to kind of train your eyes. Follow on YouTube Simplistic Fishing. He's a guy. I think he was from Missouri and he moved to Texas, and he does lake breakdowns, and he tells you exactly what he looks for on Google Earth and how to use Google Earth to look. That that I think has helped my game a lot more than watching any other than Fluke Master, other than any other fishing actually video on it, because he really breaks down what he looks for, stuff that I would have never thought of, and would have taken me years of fishing to kind of like put it together. And that's the great thing about the generation that we live now. You know, you can YouTube anything and learn from it, and then apply that to what you already know and kind of do trial by error. You learn this on YouTube, you put in practice on the water, and you see if it works for you.
Yeah.
Versus just put it in, like our parents or grandparents when they're fishing. They were like, well, how do I find fish? The only thing is like word of mouth or just actually going on the water and trying it for yourself. So that's another tool. Go follow Simplistic Fishing on YouTube, and I'm speaking to my audience here on this one. It is a great tool to use Google Earth. It has helped me a lot. Like I can tell you tournaments where I've won money, and it was because I went into one of his lake breakdowns, saw what he saw, put it in practice, and it worked out. So that's another level of it that you can take advantage of that technology.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, the tools are there for people, and I mean, YouTube is the greatest tool probably for any fisherman
Yeah.
nowadays. And but I also use like Bass. It's basically it's just keep learning. Like even when you can't be on the water, try to be always learning. I'm trying to learn every single day. About either about the fish or about the lake I'm going to. I mean, there's so much that we don't know still.
And fishing reports help too. Like I don't know.
Absolutely.
I do fishing reports every week. Like I'll do like right now until a little bit every week. I'm saying, what's the new fishing report? What's the new fishing report? And kind of compare what was last week to this week and next week. And that's gonna help you kind of like start setting a picture. Okay, last week they were on this depth according to the fishing report, and they were chomping on this. This week they're chomping on that, and they're at this type of depth. And that's gonna help you kind of like get a sense of where it might be going.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also did like 2 weeks before the tournament. I would look at the weather and write the weather down
Yep.
for wherever I was going to, because you're not always going to be where you're fishing. I know you can be an hour away from your next tournament and the weather is completely different. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially in Texas where everything changes. Like we all saying we have. If you don't like the weather, come back in 2 hours.
Yeah.
It really is. And I'm
Yeah. I
sure
know.
being from the Windy City and the Great Lakes areas, that's the same thing over there.
Oh, you could get all 4 seasons in less than an hour out here, man.
Same here, man. Same here. What have you ever fished outside of like Illinois? I'm assuming Wisconsin as well.
Well, this past time I did Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan. But I mean, most of my experience is Illinois and Wisconsin. I'm really looking to branch out to other states, but obviously it costs money. I know I'll be in Tennessee for sure
Oh,
for the paddle and fin event.
how much that is a drive for you?
I'll be driving probably with Brian, or at least, but I mean, it's not that bad. It's like probably like 8 hours.
Oh, it's not that bad.
No, it's.
It's 12 hours for me. I'm still thinking if I'm going to be able to make it or not.
Oh, I'm definitely. I know I've missed last year, and last year I was still getting everything ready by the time that was going on, still getting the motor and all that stuff set up. But this year I'm looking to be, pretty set up and ready to go.
So that's another thing for those paddle and fin fans out there. We're going to be in, what is it, Lake?
It's Dale Hollow Lake.
Dale Hollow Lake.
At
I think it's
Eastport
going to
Marina.
be Eastport Marina, and it's going to be, God, Brian's going to grill me for this. I forgot the dates already.
The 2nd and 3rd, I believe, is the tournament days.
Yeah, of April.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Second.
So the weekend, the last weekend of March, first weekend of April. Brian, don't get on my case. I'm sorry, I forgot. He's already bullying me on a Facebook Messenger about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good event, and I was talking to Brian about actually participating in the tournament. I know Shane was trying to come too, so it'll be a good time to see everybody too, on top of getting to fish an amazing body of water.
Yeah, well, Shane's going to, Shane has to drive all the way from Cali unless he flies over there and we get him a kayak.
Yeah. I know he was talking about fishing the tournament, so we'll see. We'll see if he's able to.
What's the tournament that's on that weekend?
It's gonna be the Paddle and Fin Open for
the Paddle and
us.
Fin Open. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Hopefully we'll get to see everybody. Jimmy Skinner, Dustin. I know made it last year. Who else was last year? Almost everybody except Brad Hicks and me.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even a part of Paddle and Fin at the time, but I knew I wanted to go to that event and I couldn't.
Brad Hicks is gonna troll us by making us think he's gonna show up, and then he's not gonna show up, and break everybody's heart, like he always does. Shout out to Brad Hicks. Go follow Brad Hicks and Joshua Eldridge. Every other Wednesday? No, every Wednesday.
No,
every Wednesday. Every Wednesday on the Final Cast we do product review. So go follow their show. That's a pretty good show. They got a good show coming up this week too. I'm excited about that. I just saw what it was, so that's gonna be fun. Yeah, other than that, what's been one of your favorite guests on your podcast, or your favorite episode you've recorded on the mindset?
Man, I haven't even thought about that. I would say probably Joshua David has been my favorite guest, just because it seems like we really connect when we talk. He has that whole mindset. His whole company, Champions Fishing, is based off a mindset and, being positive and everything else like that. So I just feel like we connect really good when we get on the podcast. But I mean, there's been a ton of great guests, and I've learned a ton too from people. I think that's one of the greatest things about this and talking to new people is you learn also.
Yeah. That's the whole reason why I got into podcasts, just so I can learn and talk to these guys. I like the one you did with Mark Pendergraft. Mark Pendergraft, I've had on my podcast. Great guest as always, man. I love talking to Mark Pendergraft. A great source of knowledge, cool guy.
Yeah, he's down to earth. He's not the professional, like air quotes, type of guy who's trying to be correct all the time and not swearing. I know he dropped a couple swear words on my show. I didn't mind it though.
He's a good guy. I know the term that Brad Harlerboss hates, PKA, professional kayak anglers. But yeah, man, it's yeah, he's I think he's getting into um basketball tournaments now. When I had him on the podcast, he said that if that win at the Bass Nation Kayak Series kind of opened the doors for him for other things. That's one of the underrated parts about winning this big name tournament, especially the
Yeah.
national championship. Like it really, like for those that want to make a living out of it, or at least get some money in return, because kayak fishing, it's very expensive, even though we don't spend as much as a boat, but still
I mean,
expensive.
some of these guys do though
Yeah,
that travel. I
but
mean,
a lot of them have sponsorship, and that's what I was going with. Like,
yeah,
you know, you
yeah.
win a tournament like that, and if you have a social media to go along with it, then you really can make some serious money out of it, where it's not gonna hurt your pocket, and it's not gonna have your wife mad at you for what you spend if you can bring a check back.
Oh, I know all about that conversation. Yeah. I know this year alone, I did the math, and I'm estimated to spend about just on the local stuff that's only like 5 hours away, $1,000. Which
Yeah.
just to drive to a local tournament can be, that's without kayak, that's without gear, that's without buying into the tournament. You know.
Gas
Yeah.
money, reels, lines, jackhammers.
See, I don't mess with the jackhammer
What?
because I don't. I
Really?
don't
Why
mess
not?
with it's too expensive, man. I lose
But
them way too quick. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. You gotta get. That's the thing. You gotta get one or you like. They work so good that you have to get like two of them each. Because now, if you lose one on a tournament, you're like, well, what am I throwing now?
yeah.
That's always like. It's not that it costs $15. It costs 30 when you think you gotta get two of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but you can't complain though, because I know it's a great bait, and I
Yeah.
mean, Mega Bass came out with that jerk bait a couple years ago. It was 25. It still is $25. That was
Yeah, it
the
is.
hottest craze and hottest thing, and everybody. I know everybody around here had to have. If it's not Mega Bass, you can't catch a fish with it. And then I went and painted my own jerk bait up a couple years ago and caught just as many fish.
No, I think you see this is the difference because a lot of people don't talk about that. Like when they talk about you know how much a jackhammer costs. Well, first of all, it's a chatterbait, which is traditionally like not just jackhammers, but chatterbaits have won more money on tournaments, bass boats and kayak, probably more than any bait out there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
How many tournaments have been won with a jerkbait? I mean,
Out here, a lot of them.
on a really on a jerkbait? Well, I guess because of cold weather, but
Well, it's really clear water out
yeah,
here, and there's not much. Depending on the water you fish, obviously, but there's not much like structure other than rocks and stuff, and they're more likely to be suspended. So you'll see people throwing a drop shot or like a jerk bait, like a really small jerk bait to get the smallmouth.
yeah, and that is very different from like East Texas where it's all grass lakes, where really a jerkbait. I mean, you can throw it, and I'm sure you can find success on like docks and everything, but
Yeah.
you're really gonna find the big bass on, you know, on wheat lines and on vegetation, depending on the season, right? But then that's the other thing. You spend $25 on a mega bass, and you don't think nothing of it. But then people's like, "Oh, jackhammers are too expensive." Yeah, but it's a chatterbait. It's, you know,
Yeah.
it's gonna work a lot better, at least in Texas, than a jerkbait.
Well,
Regardless of the jerkbait is you're gonna use.
I started using the Elite. I think it's called the Elite Z one that Z-Man makes, the one like right below the jackhammer,
Yeah,
and that kind of took away from my spinner baits. Which I mean, I substitute that instead of the spinner bait
yeah,
for pretty much all. Like if I'm around wood or anything, I'm throwing that.
yeah. I think that's the biggest. Um, like that's the worst thing that's ever happened to a spinner bait is the invention of a chatterbait.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah.
Because
Well,
the thing with the spinnerbait, right, it was like the way it was used because it has that wire going over the hook, then it was easy to use on grass. It was easy to use on, through rock beds. You wouldn't get hung up as much. So it had that cornered. It had that thing where no other bait had, where it looked like a bait fish, but it wouldn't be as prone to getting hung up. So you can use it. And then now comes the chatterbait or the bladed jig, whatever, or what it might be.
Depend on whatever brand you use.
Yeah, depending on what brand. And it's kind of like the anti spinnerbait now because it has more action. It's still because there's still a blade that kind of like helps you go through vegetation and you won't get snagged as much and all that. So I think that's like since the popularity of chatterbait, I've noticed the popularity of spinnerbaits has gone down. Like it's
With that, and it also took away from lipless crankbaits. You don't hear a
true
lot about those either because it could do the same thing where you could rip that thing out of the grass and then let
yeah,
it fall.
without getting hang up as much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean, I didn't use a lipless till this middle of summer this year, and that was just messing around. Like,
Yeah, I usually don't throw lipless unless I'm on a winter in rocky bed area where I know it's gonna be prone to hang up as much.
yeah,
Plus, for whatever reason here in Texas, you throw a lipless crankbait and you hook into one. 5 times out of 10, it's gonna be the hybrid or a sand bass, and you're thinking you caught a bass, and then you find out it's not. At least here in Texas, that's my experience. Every time I throw a
yeah.
lipless crankbait, I'm like, I got something, but I don't know if it's gonna be.
The
I don't
only
know.
thing I caught was a walleye with it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna be a sand bass or a bass,
Yeah.
but that's cool, man. What are you looking forward to the most for you next for your podcast? First of all, let's talk about your podcast. What are you looking forward? What's in store for the mindset moving forward?
Pretty much the same that it's been. I'm probably excited to hit that 1 year mark, especially being 1 year in paddle and fin. That's what I'm looking forward to the most on it, and just the continuation of more guests and kind of really expand. I want to try to expand also into the boat world with it, not just always kayaks, even though that's where my passion is. There's something to give something for everybody. Because the guy who owns a kayak may also own a boat, and so I'm looking forward to really expanding the guests and expanding the list of people that I have on.
That's awesome. And who's your who do you who's the guest that you look forward to bringing onto your podcast? Is there anybody out there like, man, I really want to have, like for me when I started the podcast, like I really wanted to have Fluke Master because I started watching Fluke Master video before I even got into bass fishing. So who do you is you're like, oh, I gotta have this guest at some point?
Um, it's probably a pipe dream, but Mike Iaconelli.
Oh yeah,
Like,
he'll do it. He'll do it.
he'll do it, but he's a hard guy to get a hold of, man.
Oh yeah,
He, I
busy
really,
guy.
yeah, I really want to talk to him about his kayak win and kind of how he completely built his brand around his name. Like I have a hard name to pronounce, and he did too at first when he first got into the fishing game, and now it's the most recognizable name out there. He completely built an empire off of what
Yeah.
was a dream.
Yeah, I think the Mike Ike, the ability to like shorten his name to Mike
Yep.
Ike, like Chris Slick, that could be
Yeah.
one. There you go. I
Yeah.
got dibs on if you ever make money out of that. There you go. You heard it here first, Chris Slick. I need royalties on that. Nice. And what about you in your like as a PKA? Should I say no? But you, as far as tournaments goes, what is your short term and long term goals?
Well, short-term goal for this year, I haven't announced it on Instagram. I normally put out my 2020, I did 2021 goals last year, but pretty much the same. I want to win, my first tournament. I want to get a tournament win and then Angler of the Year. I need to be in the top 5 in order to qualify for the Bass Nation stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then long term is, become a professional at this. You know,
Nice.
that requires a lot of work and a lot of social media and all that stuff, but I just keep grinding with it.
Yeah, it's no longer just about catching fish. It's also having a,
Oh,
it's
it's like a whole
yeah,
business, man.
yeah, having
It's
that social media reach.
yeah, it's you kind of got to have a business mindset to this when you want to do it at the highest level.
Yeah,
You know.
it's all about creating a brand now.
Yep.
It's what it is, which is fine. Some people hate on it. It's sellout. No, it's not. I don't. I
Yeah.
hate it when people call it a sellout. To me, it's a sellout if you're trying to represent. If you're representing a product or company you don't believe on, then that
Yeah.
to me that's why I would draw the line. But other than that, I mean, it's a way to make money. If you're bringing an organic product, an organic brand name, then there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why anybody would hate on it or call it a sellout.
Yeah.
To me that's the definition for the sellout in the sense that you're promoting something you yourself don't believe in, and that's interesting because you can. Here's my point of view on this. You can be representing Sepco, which is traditionally like everybody think like that's the worst brand. Not the worst brand, but that's like the
Well,
cheap
they're
brand.
quantum now.
Yeah, Quantum. So you can say, oh, Quantum or Sepco. You can say,
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the cheapest brand. But guess what? If you really believe in it, if you fished all your life with a Sepco and a Quantum and you really believe in it, and you get an opportunity to be on the pro staff and make money out of it, just because you're representing them, it doesn't make you a sellout. Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't make you a sellout because you truly in your heart believe in it, right? Now, take that and flip the coin, and let's say you don't believe in cement products. Let's say, which is one of the most popular brands and probably the brand that everybody wants to be a part of. Let's say you don't believe in their soft plastics. Let's say you don't believe in their jackhammers, and all of a sudden you have reached a popularity, and cement um, gives you that opportunity to represent them. To me, it's funny because you call somebody out for representing Quantum even though they believe in it, but what if you're representing a big name company like Z-Man, but you don't believe in their product? That's to me is a sellout.
Yeah.
So it has
I agree
nothing to
with
do.
that.
It has nothing to do with which brands you represent. It's what you believe in. Like if you represent a product, could be Mega Bass. I wouldn't accuse anybody of partnering with Megabass to be a sellout because that's one of the best brands out there. Their jerk baits or crankbaits, a lot of their stuff is 6 cents is another one. Z-Man. But if you don't believe in their products, but you're still willing to partner with them, that to me is more of a sellout.
I agree with that.
That's just my
Completely.
personal opinion, right?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, I know the Bass Fishing for Noobs did a podcast a couple weeks ago about sponsorships and everything, and where they said you should only go after sponsorships that you believe in.
Exactly.
And that's like, I agree with that 100%. I'm not with anybody that where I wasn't using their products beforehand, you know. Like, and like I'm now promoting products that I'm not even technically signed to them, but want to be. So there's no point in not promoting something that I actually believe in.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the point. And by the way, just to clarify for all that are listening, I'm not calling anybody that's sponsored by Seaman or Bass or Mega Bass that they're a sellout. I'm just saying, if you're whatever company you are, if you don't like it, if you don't believe in the product, but you still want to partner with them, then that's what I would definition. So I'm not calling anybody specifically.
Yeah.
So don't take that to don't take that and run with it, guys or girls that are listening. But yeah, man, that's a rabbit hole we can go into. And definitely a lot of information. And I say this: you don't have to be partnered with a company to teach other people, right? If there is a specific product, or a specific technique that you like, and you want to use it, I mean, you can still promote it. You can still say, "Hey, I've used this product. I'm not sponsored by them, but if I can give you some knowledge." And there's always there's different, social media content. Some of them is entertainment. Like my guy Canelli is more centered about entertainment. Not that he doesn't teach, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
his social, my Ike
Well, I
is
mean,
more,
he's on a totally different level from.
yeah, but he's more of
Like,
he's more in the entertainment business
yeah.
where, let's say, Fluke Master is more of a teacher, like a not sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
They both have social media, but for different reasons. So if
Yeah.
you're starting your own social media and you want to help other people, you can still talk about products that you don't believe in them. I mean, not believe in them, that you're not sponsored with them, but you do believe in them. That's what I meant to say. But anyways, Chris, I've had you for almost an hour, and usually with the first time guest, I like to do like rapid questions. So pretty much, if you listen to my podcast, you probably know what's coming.
Yeah,
But you
I
ready?
know. Yeah.
All right. First of all, either one 10-pounder in 8 hours of fishing or 10 2-pounders.
Thought about
In a
this. I've thought about this.
Everybody has thought about that. There's no wrong answer, by the way.
Oh, I know. I would say 110-pounder.
I agree. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna steal one from Bass and Brews that they asked me on that question. It was a tough question. Wacky Rig or Texas Rig? We're talking about Senkos. Which one would you do?
Oh,
If you have to
Rig.
pick one. Wacky Rig?
Wacky Rig, but not big on Senkos, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. That's a first. If you can only fish one bait for the rest of your life, just one bait, which one would it be?
Drop shot.
Drop shot. Well, because, up there, right? I see it. I can see it.
I've done it in thick grass, too. This is called power shot. And we use a 4-out hook and a bigger weight. I did it in Wisconsin to catch all my fish on that tournament.
I've actually done that once, and I caught some pretty nice bass in it. So I've actually done power drop shot.
Power shot.
I think I learned that from actually a podcast. I think it was Chris Santoro. I think it was Chris that taught me that one. I can't remember. It's one of my first podcasts that I did that we talked about that. Favorite setup: rod, reel, and line.
Well, I probably have two. I have one for spinning and one for casting. You want me to go through them both?
Yeah.
Yeah. So casting would be a 7-foot medium action rod with a 6.6 reel. I use 13th Fishing concept reel, and then I can't remember the name of the spinning rod, but a light action, medium to light action spinning rod for the drop shot. 7 foot still.
Nice.
I always like staying around that 7 foot range, 6'9".
Yeah, I'm probably the same way. Although I tend to lean more to the 7.4, 7.6 kind of like. It's just I like to bomb out. That's one thing that I've matured. At first, I just like the guy in me just wanted to bomb out those baits out there, and then I learned sometimes less is better. So
yeah, I'm a target caster.
Yeah,
I gotta aim at something.
Yeah, no, which is good. I mean, crankbaits and all that. You need long casts and all that, but being a bank fisherman too, you sometimes you want to get the bait out there, so you really want to use those long rods to do that. But yeah, that's a good point. Last question: if you're not ever allowed to fish for bass again, that includes smallmouth, any black bass, none at all. Which fish would you target?
Muskie.
Muskie? Do you do a lot of musking up there?
I try to do a lot in the fall time. You don't really want to target them once the water is above 75 because it could, even if they swim off, it could end up killing them in the end of it.
No.
So,
PB muskie?
Haven't caught one yet, man. It's the fish at 10,000 casts for a reason.
That's an interesting choice, being that you never caught one, man. I wouldn't be.
It's like the, I don't know how to explain it. It's like the lure of knowing it's like this, at least out here. Like it's like this fish at 10,000 casts. Like if you catch one, you're a really lucky person. It's almost like a tarpon, but for the northern states. It's the best way I could describe it.
Well, tarpon are a lot easier to catch than muskie.
Oh, yeah. With the right people, yeah. But if you're going out there yourself and not knowing anything, it can be a challenge.
Really? You think so? I lived in Puerto Rico, man. Tarpon are super easy to catch.
Oh, see?
Yeah, it's like trash fish over there. Yeah. And that's it, man. Anything? Oh, before I let you go, shout outs. Go ahead and take your time to do your shout outs, shameless plugs.
I mean, I don't have many, but I'm affiliate with Bucked Up, which is a pre-workout and a post-workout, and then Outdoorsman Coffee. I have a cup every single morning. And let's see what else. I mean, Paddle and Fin, obviously, they're not a sponsor, but they've helped me with so much. And Bending Branches is one that I'm not affiliated with them, but I do love the brand and the product.
Nice.
So, I mean, I believe that's about it for. Oh, Rocktown Adventures. That was my newest one. You know,
Eh,
they helped me get into my first actual fishing kayak.
nice. And where can people follow you on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever social media you have?
Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and YouTube is all at Chris Slywka Fishing.
At Chris Lipska Fishing, man. Where's that last name from? I have to ask.
It is Ukrainian from
Ukraine,
my
yeah.
dad's side, obviously.
Yeah,
But
obvious.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me because it's like, a lot of people think it's Polish, but my dad always told me you could get in fights over that. But that way, if someone calls you Ukrainian Polish, that's starting a fight.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not from that part of
Yeah.
the Europe, so I wouldn't know. That's
I wouldn't know
interesting.
either. I've never been there. It's just what I've been told.
There you go.
Yeah.
Words to live by then if you live in
Yep.
that side. All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining us, man. I've had you for an hour. It's a great conversation. Wish you the best with the podcast. Wish you the
Yep.
best with moving forward with your tournament, and your aspirations, and we're in Bass Kayak and Beer Paddle and Fin family, whatever we can do to help you achieve your goals, man. We're all for it. So
Yep.
for those out there listening, remember, go check out my sponsor, Douglas Outdoors. Go to douglasoutdoors.com. I also got a new video. I starting to do some YouTube videos. I was going to say that in the intro, forgot. But I got my first video out there, my kind of like full length, and I call it full length because it's 15 minutes. It's going to be centered around me fishing with talented anglers and kind of learning from them. So it's not going to be just about me fishing. I'm also do some tournament recaps, and might also throw in some short, like 2-minute videos on tackle tips of things that I feel comfortable teaching other people. So go check it out. Follow me on YouTube on the Bass Kayak and Beers Instagram as well. And have a great day, everyone. If you're going to go out there fishing, please wear your PFDs. Stay safe, and congratulations to the winner of the Bass Nation Kayak Series. KBF 10, I forgot his name, Cody Henley. Congratulations to him. And that's it. Peace out, everybody. Have a great day.